All right, we did 1 lap raw, and now I think I'm gonna try and do 1 lap, but really talk through what it is I'm doing at every stage, like what I'm thinking about, what I'm looking for, and yeah, just see if that's at all interesting to you guys. So check it out. I like to keep the entrance to some of these trails kind of hidden. With all the sand here, it's really easy for trails to get really beat down and big holes put in them and stuff, so yeah. When you don't make it up a hill climb, depending on the soil, sometimes you can kind of turn it into a pivot hill. That one got a little bit harder with that tree down across it. I think I'll leave it because it's a good practice to kind of stay aggressive while ducking. The big thing here, I'm just trying to make sure my rear wheel is somewhere that's not going to spin. Got to look out for stuff like that, right? When it's angled, and if you go, your ass end's just going to shit out on you. So you'll see throughout this loop, I'll be keep looking down at my rear tire and just making sure it's in a good spot. So a steep poke here to a pivot at the top. Got to be aggressive the whole way through it. Then you can rest once you get done the move. Little side hill, watch out for those side roots. Big thing here, I need to make sure on this move that my rear wheel gets into this pocket. That's really important, because if I try and pivot too early and my rear wheel is on the back side of this pocket, I'm not going to be lined up for that next move. So you got to think about going out and past and making sure your rear wheel is where it needs to be. Kind of like that. So this here, similarly, watch my rear wheel. We got a root here that I got to jump up over, so this is one of the scenarios where you kind of got to zap your way up and over, and then you zap up and over, but you got to land in a wheelie to get that pivot. Or just set your front wheel down and drag it through the weeds. Similarly, check the rear wheel, and we're up. All right. It's a nice little warm up. It's not too hard, but it still gets the heart rate going a little bit. Typically, one thing I think a lot of people don't realize, as I'm coming down this hill, by the way, really focusing actually on going as slow as I can down it and as in control, because we're practicing right now. It's not about speed, it's about kind of making sure you can do this stuff in control. But what I was going to say is, I've already done a lap of this loop this morning. I think a lot of people don't realize the benefit of getting your heart rate up, and yeah, things get easier once you've gone through the heart rate, given yourself a chance to rest, and then get back at it. So the crux of this climb is there's an S-corner through here with a lot of roots. I really just here need to focus on keeping my feet on the pegs, try to stand through it, get up past it with a little bit of momentum, and I should be okay. Traction today is pretty good, just not on the roots. There it is, feet back on the pegs. You gotta dab, keep one foot on the pegs. There it is. Nice. riding that trials bike for the last month or so really solidified that foot on the peg or else you're screwed mentality. Okay. So I rode pretty much that whole section in first. I'll ride pretty much this whole trail in first. I have a 13:51 gear ratio, so it's quite a lot lower than stock. Stock is 1450. So being in first, you can tell just how much my bike is tractoring. Okay, big breaths before we get into it. Really focus on breathing in the easy parts of the trail. Okay. This pivot's really strange because you actually pivot not at the top of the climb, but about, you know, 3/4 of the way up it. You gotta pivot and then really delicately side hill. It's really sandy, so there's not a lot of give, or not a lot of hold up on your rear wheel. You'll see what I mean when I get up there. But again, at the bottom of these, you just gotta make sure you recognize where you have to be aggressive and where you can rest. And you can't rest on the climb, you can't rest on the pivot. You need to be aggressive and then get your breath again. So at the bottom, and once you're through it. There we go. Big aggressive sweep, and then you'll see here, very little hold up for my rear wheel. Got some nasty side root there I got to be conscious of. Should be really light on the bike here. There it goes, my rear wheel just fell off. Just gonna get my front end up and over. There it is. It's not perfect science, but it'll work. Probably shifted up into third there, so get it back down to first. Take a breath. And we got pretty much the crux of this whole hill. There's one at the very top and one down at the base here. So you'll see, best case scenario, I can ride this in one smooth motion, or it's two separate moves. Obviously, I'm going to try to keep my momentum one smooth motion, but again, rest here, aggressive, rest when I'm back past the crux. Didn't quite do it. So you'll see a lot of that when I am pushing. I'm very rarely going to be revving the engine. I'm letting the clutch out, giving it just enough gas that my rear wheel is tracking forward, but I'm not trying to rev. You're not going to make any traction off your bike on roots. But if you can just use the weight of the bike and a really delicate throttle control while keeping, you know, pushing forward on your bike, you can push through some pretty nasty stuff. Work smart, not hard. Okay, just got a little side hill here to a pivot turn. See, I'm not really revving. Now I'm looking here. Some of the stuff that you got to watch out for. You see these roots right in front of me? Those are going to make traction challenging, so I need to develop some momentum between now and then it looks like I'll have a chance to get more speed built up after them. But I don't want to try to be building a ton of momentum right in those roots, because you're just going to spin. Similarly, pushing through, and you're going to be able to rest when you get up top there. So double check my rear wheel. It's not resting on anything weird. There it is. Okay. Another one here. This one's tough because there's not really a bench to rest on, so I got to go in between some trees up there. So my goal, just gonna shut my bike off here. The goal when you're in a scenario like this, and look where the end of the pivot is, and just see that I'm gonna have to go up above those birch trees there. So ideally, I should be trying to pivot so that I'm high enough that I can side hill down into the trees rather than pivot low and have to ride up and through them. It's obviously easier said than done. I honestly don't know if I've done a good version of it. I know on my last trip I didn't. I had to push through, but that's what I'm consciously thinking of. Is it's a little bit like playing pool, where yeah, that's your shot right now, but that next shot you have to be conscious of and make sure whatever this shot is supports what you need to do next, right? So yeah, we're gonna try and pivot, but we're gonna try and end up there so that I can come down in through the trees. We eventually have to get over here rather than pivot low and have to go up and through them. Hopefully that makes some sense. Not bad, not great. Again, nice and easy. Get my front wheel. Maybe try to push up. Get my front wheel up, okay? Same thing. Really easy on the throttle. Be pushing forward and just, yeah, not spinning. Spinning doesn't accomplish anything in these scenarios. Okay, through there, not great, but we made it. This is a really good place to kind of show a technique, and I have a video on my Instagram where I kind of talk about this exact zone, but this pivot is really steep right here. And one of the things that I do here, I do it in one or two other spots on this trail, is I stand beside the bike and pivot around that way, just because it might not be as fast, but it's definitely safer and more consistent. So again, you want to think about, where's my rear wheel? Where does my rear wheel kind of need to pivot around? Which is kind of somewhere up near where my front wheel is, because now we're going up that way. And so I'm gonna put it in first. I'm gonna stay on the high side here, or essentially the inside of the turn. And we're gonna just tic-tac your front end around. I'm braking here with my clutch, right? I'm keeping the bike from rolling backwards with my clutch. You get to here, I'm gonna lean the bike into the inside of the hill, and I'm tall enough. If you're not tall enough, just shut the bike off and lay it on its side, and then get around to the high side. But there, now we're turned around. If I was doing that in like a higher speed scenario, it would be a lot faster than what it just was, but it's still very consistent, and if you can practice it, it's a really good technique to have in the tool bag. So just keeping an eye on roots here, where my rear tire is. This is a real nasty one, so I'm actually gonna try to get, I'm not gonna go from here, because my rear end's gonna probably drop into there. I'm gonna try and get my rear tire up there a little bit, and then turn it into like a single zap. So, okay, we're past that root. Now we gotta zap over top of that, and then zap over top of those guys. Let's just see here. Feet on the pegs, really driving my weight forward, but keeping the weight on the pegs. One more. off here. That was bad. I didn't keep my weight on the pegs. I was too focused on driving forward. Roll myself back as far as I can. There we go. Wow. Man, oh man. One thing that's hard is kind of takes you out of the flow when you're talking about this stuff. You think about it a little bit too much, I think. Just need to get that rear wheel up and over those things. No, we're just gonna push it through. Not spinning. Good. Just like that. Ah, not my best work, but what can you do? Okay. Got to get flowing here a bit, so we're just gonna try to carry our momentum up through this. It's pretty nasty, but speed and momentum is gonna be our friend in this scenario, and just being aggressive. Let's give it a shot. There we go. Not super clean, but made it work. Okay, so this particular section here, that's the danger zone. You can see there's a little bit of a bench here, and we're really gonna try to ease ourselves across that bench. And then out there you can see there's kind of like a stump with a cluster of willow stumps. We need to get our rear wheel there. If we can get our rear wheel there, we can do that kind of tic-tac standing pivot and then get ourselves back and across. This is very, very steep, so you can't, I mean, I can't. I'm sure there's people in the world who are capable of riding this without pushing, but if you're watching this and you can do that, you don't need my help. So yeah, just really listen to the sound of my bike as we come across this ridge and just realize how little throttle I'm giving it. We're really trying to ballet our way across. We just need to get over there and then sort it out from there. So really being conscious of our front and rear wheels here. Again, we're staying in first this whole time. Get that handlebar around that tree. Almost there. Okay, we got our rear wheel kind of caught in those stumps, and now the tic-tac begins. You got to really be conscious where you're putting your feet here, because there's some of these roots that if your feet hit, you'll go for a tumble and the bike will come with you. Okay, so you see right there's a really bad one, and there's another bad one there. The only thing you can really do in that scenario is just be really conscious of your rear wheel on your bike and making sure you're not trying to like pin it on that section. So good footing, nice and far forward, get some pressure on the handlebars, reset, just like that. Just letting the clutch out really, really lightly. Not perfect, but we got through it. I don't love where we are. I'd rather be up there, but we're gonna use this stump to try and get ourselves back up. Okay, so watch your rear tire. Some of these willows might be a bit of a bugger, but we're just gonna try and do a quick pop up. There it is. Now we're up onto the bench. Okay, I'm just gonna side hill out, looking ahead, being conscious of roots that your front end or rear end can slide off of. Whew. Okay, first part of the loop done. We're gonna drop down now. So one thing I'm looking for here, or I'm aware of, is this is why I practice trying to go down hills really slowly and with my feet on the pegs, because this is steep and it's actually off camber down to the left, which means that if you know, with your inside foot being your rear brake, you really want that rear foot, or that foot on the rear brake, to slow you down. I've seen some really nasty descents down this with some other riders, so practice going down hills with your feet on the pegs as much as you can, and just know how to slow yourself down and descend with control. Because once you can descend with control, you can start to pick the pace up on your descents, and if you get yourself into trouble, you can kind of rein it back in. Okay, so real off camber here. I'm just watching for roots, trying to keep my momentum. I'm gonna try and kind of lost it there. Get up and above that. Okay, so the trail actually goes up there, but we're gonna break this section into 2 parts because this is so off camber and rooty. We're actually gonna go over here, pivot, zap up, and then go. Again, I think in drier conditions, it's probably doable in one swift go. It's not dry right now. Pivot. Again, where's my rear wheel? Making sure it's gonna make traction where I wanna go. And then again, we need to get above those trees. So I don't wanna pivot below them. I need to pivot way up there so I can come down and land into the pocket of those trees. It's really important to always try and make that a thing when you're doing this kind of riding, because you pivot down there, you can see where there's some marks, probably myself or others have tried, and now you're just fighting this uphill battle and your rear wheel is going to hit that. So much of this, at least in these conditions I've found, is about thinking where your rear wheel needs to be. And yeah, if you can do that, things get easier. Maybe not easier, just less hard. I don't know. Pull myself back a little bit, double check the rear wheel. This is gonna be a big explosive move, I guess you could say. Kind of conscious of that route, but it's kind of parallel with the trail enough that it might not be a huge deal. Let's see what we got here. There it is. See that? Up and above those. That's really important to be able to be thinking of that. Same thing here. Got a root coming down off the base of the tree, another root there. I'm gonna try and put my front or my rear wheel in between those two and then cut across. There it is. I'm just gonna pivot my front end around, get myself under this tree. There it is. Okay. So I'd say on this climb, there's 2 cruxes again. There's one down at the bottom here. It's a pivot with a log that literally runs like across the trail. I don't really have a good move over it, but I'll show you how I would typically approach it by lifting my back end over. And then there's another one up there where you kind of go through these goalposts, so we'll get to that. But yeah, so here again, my pivot's up there. I'm going to try and pivot as high up as I can, because that's going to give me the most amount of room to work with along that log, and you'll see what I mean by that in a second. Okay. Oh, here we go. Okay, get that front wheel up and over and kind of lock it on. But now, up here, I'm just basically looking, I'm trying to be conscious of my clearance. And if I can get my foot peg to hook, got this trail bound grab strap, there. See that I get that foot peg to hook over that? That's gonna prevent me from sliding down the trail that way. So you get that hook, and now here, keep an eye on my clutch. I'm just letting the clutch out enough. Oh, didn't work. But I'm kind of trying to let the clutch out just enough that without any weight on the back end, the rear wheel while it's in gear is just gonna spin a little bit. So yeah, that's how you get around that. You can see this log's broken, so eventually it'll go away. But for the time being, it's nice and hard. Make sure, see I'm in second there. When you come over some of those logs, your bike will pop itself into a higher gear. You'll get pushed up. Then you're trying to ride and I got no power. Okay, again, you've heard me say it. I got to get above those trees, so this pivot needs to take place up there. The challenge with that is that we've left that standing dead tree. And we did that for a very specific reason. So you can't just go straight up and then pivot. You actually have to go up and land your front wheel to the left of that one. And yeah, it just adds a little bit of difficulty. I think it's something that as you are building, and if you know what you're looking for in a build, you know, we wanted this to be tough. You make the call to leave things like that because it's going to, you know, now when I'm on a trail ride with someone else in a different spot, there's a scenario like this, maybe there's not a tree there, and now it's even easier. So okay, conscious of my rear wheel. It's nice, it's in a nice little pocket. Big snap and push up here. Okay, I'm actually just going to get off and push because I don't have a ton of traction here. It's really side hill. You can see my tires like sitting up off the ground, and we need to get above this. So again, get your body position nice and far forward, take the tension out of the slack of the bike, and we're just going to push, get through it. Nice. Okay, we got a turnaround here, so we're actually going to go that way, but we can kind of use this turnaround as a little spot to take a break. You can see I'm way off the back of the bike on this pivot. I'm going to take the time, get myself set up into this bench and up to another pivot. Here we go. Nice. Snag a little tree on the way. Okay, so here's the next crux. You'll see we're gonna kind of side hill along this bench, and then inevitably kind of goalpost through a set of trees. The thing that makes it challenging is that it's part of a pivot, but if you do a full pivot, you're gonna actually be pointed the wrong direction. So you almost need to come up, go straight, and then go left again, because the trail actually goes out that way. It's a really interesting and kind of challenging piece of the trail to I mean, I've seen guys able to pivot, then they can get themselves turned around and head back that way, but the best line is come up, turn to the right, straight up through the trees and then to the left, little S corner. Again, trying to keep the feet on the pegs, and yeah. Ah, gotta get rid of that. Cut that off right now. Anyway, made it, but it's the second time in a row that this it's kind of like a stringy ass root, and it grabs onto your back tire and just kind of stops you dead. So nothing fancy, you just gotta basically get rid of the tension, you know. There you go. Hey, we'll get rid of it on this end to just clean things up a bit. But you can see you really have to carry your momentum, because there's these roots here. Again, with the rear wheel, you need your rear wheel to get here, because if it doesn't get here, it's going to spin there, you're going to slide backwards. So making it and getting through sections is almost entirely based on your rear wheel making it, which is, I don't know, just an interesting thing to think about and be conscious of. I do think that being conscious of it certainly helps. Okay, another thing for you YZ guys, learn how to start your bike with your left foot, because it comes in handy when you're on these side hills like this. Okay, so similarly here, we got a root that's running there. So I got myself up above it, but if I'm here, I need to be conscious to not let my rear end slide down there. And then we have this guy that basically, it's running, you know, we want to go that way, and it's kind of running this way, and it's going to want to grab our ass end and go that way, right? So again, I'm going to try to shoot more straight. I'm going to shoot this way and the root's going over here, and just be conscious to get my rear wheel up there, or else it's going to shoot out over that way. Make sure I'm in the right gear. Get myself kind of positioned here, put on the rear brake holding me, got my clutch pretty much at engagement point. It's a big one, but I was able to do it. And now we're just going to lug ourselves out. Whew, there it is. Again, I feel like in time I might start adding to this here, but not gonna lie, it's a pretty good feeling to make it through all that and then just get to cruise this section. You know, focus on keeping my feet on the pegs, looking forward. Going like 2 miles an hour, and it feels like I got so much airflow. Just like that, we've done a loop. Yeah, I don't know. Hopefully that was valuable. Like I said, the purpose of this loop, kind of the thesis when we were building it, was make it hard, kind of short and sweet, you know, not too many of the same thing. I think if you looking at just on a surface level, it's just a bunch of pivots, but I think every one of those pivots and corners and sections has its own little unique set of challenges that ultimately make for a pretty challenging little section. So yeah, man, really appreciate it. I'm tired now. 2 laps of that, we'll get a guy. I actually don't know how long that was, but yeah. Till next time, thank you so much for the support. Thank you.